Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Susan Marinov-Zausner. Can you hear me? I need it louder. Are we okay on the sound? Okay. It's a little low. I can speak very loud without it, but would you project, please? My name is Susan Marinov-Zausner, and I'm president of the Intrepid Museum, and on behalf of our Board of Trustees and our entire Intrepid team, we are welcoming you, and we are honored to have you here as we commemorate the attack on Pearl Harbor, 83 years ago today. I do ask if you can rise, if you are able, for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. So this is quite an important day for the Intrepid Museum, and it's one that has always been poignant and bittersweet, and now increasingly so with the passage of time. I was just saying that this is an intimate gathering, but exponentially incredibly important. For years, we have been honored by the participation of survivors from the fateful day in 1941, individuals who had become a part of the fabric of the museum and, quite frankly, our friends. We all look forward to seeing them regaling us with their memories, which were always so crystal clear, of bravery and heroism, while also making sure that we always remembered the unspeakable tragedy that they witnessed firsthand. And sadly, and of course, through the passage of time, we lost several of the survivors we've honored through the years. And if I may name them: Joseph Medor, Daniel Fruchter, Aaron Chabin, Clark Simmons, Armando Chick Gallela, and Reverend James Blakely. All of us were lucky to have known them, each remarkable for their service and sacrifice and for the lives that they led after. And while they're no longer physically with us, they will always live on in our hearts and our minds. It's important to Intrepid, it's important to all of us that we carry on our tradition, continue to pay tribute, and do our part to perpetuate their legacy. And I've often said, as long as the families will do that with us and want to do that with us, we will do this for you. We're grateful to be joined today by members of the Adams, the Simmons, the Gallela, and the Ward-Lador families, and honored that Muriel Adams and Claudette Simmons will say a few words as part of this program, and we look forward to hearing from you. And what a privilege to have Brigadier General Daniel Hershkowitz, Deputy Commanding General, U.S. Army Reserve's 99th Readiness Division, here with us again. Thank you for being part of our ceremony. I would like to recognize our cherished former crew members from the Intrepid here in attendance. Thank you to the service, your service, to our nation, to our Intrepid. Thank you for saving this ship through the years, and thank you for the work that you continue to do for Intrepid, with Intrepid every single day. We are certainly grateful, and all of our generations who get to meet you and hear from you learn so much. It is now my pleasure to introduce a great Intrepid leader. He is chairman of global brokerage for Cushman & Wakefield, and he helped to launch and serves as chairman of Cushman & Wakefield's own military and veterans program, currently a top 5 veterans program in the country. He is the chairman emeritus of the Iraq-Afghanistan Veterans of America, chairman emeritus for Business Executives for National Security, and has served on the Defense Board, Business Board, among other government appointments. Please welcome Intrepid Museum's co-chairman, Mr. Bruce Mosler.
Good morning. Nice to see you all. Susan, thank you for that very kind introduction. I also want to extend my warm welcome to General Hershkowitz. Thank you, sir, for joining us again, as Susan alluded to. And I also want to say thank you to our incredible, intrepid former crew members for all that you do for this great ship, day in, day out, not just on special remembrance days like this. And I would also like to welcome members of the Adams, Gallela, Simmons, and Ward-Medore families. My most sincere gratitude to all of you for being here for this very important Remembrance Day. December 7th marks a pivotal day in our nation's history. It reminds us of the unprovoked attack at Pearl Harbor that plunged our country into World War II. Ladies and gentlemen, arguably the most consequential conflict in our nation's history. That date of infamy saw 2,400 Americans lose their lives in a war that would ultimately claim more than 400,000 of our nation's men and women in uniform, and many, many millions more throughout the world. The Pearl Harbor attack 83 years ago forever changed the lives of so many. But more importantly, it changed the course of our nation. It brought American people together, committed wholeheartedly to victory in the Second World War. The attack, while it severely damaged our Pacific fleet, it could never, ever destroy our resolve. In point of fact, it strengthened us. It awoke a sleeping giant and ultimately launched the world's greatest superpower. The aftermath of the tragedy and devastation of Pearl Harbor is the story of unprecedented determination, ingenuity, and in the final analysis, triumph. Despite the shocking human toll and the great military impact it had that day, the recovery for our nation began almost immediately. For within just 2 years, and in fact in many cases sooner, the vast majority of the ships that were sunk or damaged that day at Pearl Harbor were salvaged, repaired, and refloated. Truly an engineering marvel, not just then, but even today's terms. These ships returned to battle and helped defeat the Axis powers. So while we may have lost that particular battle, that particular day, it powered us to a decisive victory in the war. Ladies and gentlemen, the American economy immediately shifted at that point to war production. In industry after industry, astonishing feats of manufacturing were accomplished. By way of example, by 1944, our nation was producing more than 100,000 aircraft and tens of thousands of different kinds of naval vessels annually, including aircraft carriers. Within 3 years, the U.S. Navy had surpassed the combined strength of all other navies during the conflict. More than 250 sailors and airmen were lost on this great ship and in the skies above. Our nation forever honors those who gave their lives in the defense of our nation, and we realize the freedoms that we enjoy today come at a very, very steep price. Remembering those lost on this date in 1941 and in the 4 years of brutal fighting that followed is our responsibility. As Americans, it's a national duty, and Intrepid, as you heard Susan say, will forever be a symbol of the heroism of men like Aaron, Chick, Clark, Daniel, James, and Joseph. And like our Intrepid crew members, all those who answered and continue to answer the call to defend our nation and defend freedom throughout the world. We pledge to forever remember and honor their heroism. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless America. Now, it is my high privilege to introduce the Deputy Commander of the U.S. Army's 99th Readiness Division, whose mission is to provide programs and services that enhance readiness for mobilization and deployment of the Army Reserves. In his distinguished career spanning more than 3 decades, he deployed overseas in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and again in Afghanistan. He has received many awards, too many to mention, and decorations including the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Joint Services Commendation Medal, and Army Commendation Medal. Please join me in welcoming our friend, Brigadier General Daniel Hershkowitz.
Good morning. All right, hey, so before I get started, I do want to recognize we have a lot of VIPs that are here today. I'll get to you in just a moment. I'm fortunate my parents are still with me today. My mom and dad are here in the audience, so they live out on Long Island. And Mom, Dad, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the trip out to New York City to take part in this ceremony. And I'm glad you're both still here. Okay, all right, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this commemoration for one of the key events in our nation's history. I want a special thanks to the Intrepid Museum leadership, specifically Susan Marinoff-Zausner. I have Ken Fisher in here, Bruce, you as well. Sorry. For inviting me here again. For inviting me here again today, and for the strong commitment to the families, the veterans, and especially to what you do to the Fallen Heroes Fund, which to date has provided more than $200 million in public donations to families of killed and severely injured veterans. 83 years ago today, on a date which will live in infamy, the military forces stationed at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, came under attack. Please allow me to share some statistics that I know Bruce went over a few of them as well. Again, more than 2,400 Americans were killed, nearly 1,300 were wounded on the attack. 188 military aircraft, 9 naval vessels were destroyed, with an additional 159 aircraft and 21 ships damaged. The United States battleship Arizona, which exploded after its forward magazine was hit by an enemy shell, accounted for nearly half of those American lives lost. That fateful day brought our country into the Second World War and forced more than 11 million of America's greatest generation to put their lives on hold, say goodbye to their loved ones, and sail east and west this nation's shores to face 2-pronged enemy attacks on our freedom and way of life. Some of those families of the heroes are here today, and it is my privilege to say to you all, thank you, on behalf of your loved ones, for the sacrifices. We will forever be in their debt, for it's due to their courage, fortitude, vigilance, that we continue to enjoy the blessings of freedom and liberty today. The names of those Pearl Harbor survivors, represented by family members today, are William Adams, Clark Simmons, Armando Galeo, James Madore. The sacrifices made by these service members more than 8 decades ago foreshadowed the sacrifices being made every day by U.S. service members in defense of our freedoms. Their legacy of proud and honorable service lives on within the brave men and women who continue to volunteer to wear the uniform today. Our current generation of service members is proving its courage and resolve today, with more than 2 million men and women from all branches of the service currently serving at points across the globe, often still serving in harm's way, to defend this nation as their predecessors did more than 8 decades ago. We are gathered inside the hallowed halls of this great fighting ship of World War II, the Cold War, and Vietnam War. If you research the word intrepid, one of the synonyms is dauntless, a word that served as the radio call sign for the 99th Infantry Division, the predecessors of the current unit, the 99th Readiness Division, which I am part of today. Commissioned in August of 1943, this vessel, she was one of 24 Essex-class aircraft carriers built during World War II. She earned 8 battle stars and the Presidential Unit Citation for her service. Further, she received 3 battle stars for service during the Vietnam War. Unquestionably, the men and women who fought and served more than 80 years ago today in both the Atlantic and the Pacific theaters of war could be called dauntless, fighting for their very lives and ultimately for our way of life. The bonds these warriors shared can only be forged in the fires of combat, and is something few people will ever experience in their lifetime. They are truly a band of brothers and sisters, and no amount of time or distance can ever take that away from them at all. Veterans throughout our nation's history have earned our undying gratitude, and we will never forget their sacrifices. We honor all who have answered the call to serve. In the United States, we currently have about 18 million veterans who have served in our nation's armed forces. This number represents about 7% of America's adult population. Their service spans from World War II to our latest conflicts in the Middle East. The United States now has its largest population of young veterans since the Vietnam War. If you are a veteran and in the audience today who served your country, please stand if you are able. I would like to recognize you all. If you cannot stand, that is okay. Let's give all these folks a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for your service and your commitment to keeping our country safe and from being part of the best military force in the world, and your continued service for many of you that volunteer here on this beautiful ship today that is still serving your nation and serving your community. Generations of patriots for the past 2.5 centuries have dedicated themselves to the defense of our country to make us stronger and more resilient as a nation. Right now, thousands of service members are forward deployed around the world, keeping the flame of liberty's torch burning bright. These soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guards, and now we even have Space Guardians, uphold the legacy of past warriors whose lives were dedicated to preserving our freedom for our families, friends, communities, and our country. Their sacrifices can never be repaid, their valor can never be questioned, and their services to our nation will never be forgotten. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to be part of this Pearl Harbor Day commemoration. We cannot be successful without the support of our nation and its citizens. I thank you for everything you have done for our service members and to our military over the years, and I thank you for your continued support to our mission and into the future as you have done so effectively. Only with your support can our armed forces remain ready to fight and win our nation's wars. Twice the citizen, combat ready. God bless America. God bless all of you. Thank you.
Bruce, thank you. General, thank you very, very much. Thank you so much for your service. Truly, truly. William Adams enlisted in the U.S. Army 4 years before Pearl Harbor. After December 7, he continued to serve through the end of World War II. As staff sergeant at Schofield Barracks in Oahu, he trained soldiers on the howitzer. Schofield Barracks was attacked by Japanese planes on that fateful day. For his service, he received various medals, including a posthumous Congressional Medal right here on Intrepid soon after he passed away in 1991. His wife, Leona Hermel Adams, frequently attended this ceremony, and now his daughter Muriel carries on the tradition. It's my pleasure to introduce Muriel Adams to share remarks about her father. Muriel? Where is she? Okay.
So it's this. Okay, good morning all. Thanks for being here. My father, William Bill Adams, was born and raised in the Bronx, here in New York. Can you hear me? Okay. He enlisted in the U.S. Army in March 1940 and arrived in Hawaii that June. He was due to go home to the States the end of December 1941 and be discharged. However, the Pearl Harbor attacks in early December were in early December, so he had to remain in the Army until the end of World War II in 1945, when he returned to the Bronx. In Hawaii, he was based at Schofield Barracks in the center of the island of Oahu as a staff sergeant in the Field Artillery Unit. My father took photos and meticulously labeled them, which is how I can tell you what they are. And so there's my father. While stationed at Schofield Barracks, he had the opportunity to get to see the sights and explore Oahu. This is a photo of one of the main streets of Honolulu. He labeled it TH, which stood for the territory of Hawaii, as this was before Hawaii became a state in 1959. Here is a group of sailors from Pearl Harbor in downtown Honolulu. Further afield, this shows a grain cart and native huts that my father took while he was exploring Oahu. These are water buffalo plowing poi fields. Poi is a traditional staple Hawaiian food made from the starchy vegetable taro. It is mashed with water into a paste. My father, who loved to swim, visited Oahu's many beaches. Here he is at Halewa Beach, August 1940. Here's Waikiki Beach with Diamond Head in the background. This shows surfboard riding and surf swimming. These are hotels on Waikiki Beach. Oops. This is a photo of what's called a blowhole, where the water spouts up through lava rock. When I toured Hawaii in 1996 and saw this site, I knew that it was the same blowhole that my father had photographed so long ago. It hadn't changed. Schofield Barracks had a baseball team. Here's my father in his baseball uniform. But it wasn't all fun and games before the war. This is Inspection of the Guard, March 1941. This is a 240 millimeter long-range artillery howitzer. It fires explosive shells and can be adjusted to shoot them at various angles. My father trained troops in how to use the howitzer. Here's my father at Schofield Barracks, August 1940. And again, March 1941. Now, these are fighting planes from Wheeler Field near Schofield Barracks. The Japanese attacked the harbor, Pearl Harbor first, then made a second wave attack inland at Wheeler Field and Schofield Barracks. February 1941, after a 3-day maneuver that my father made. A maneuver is a large-scale military exercise. On Thanksgiving Day 1941, there was a huge dinner at Schofield Barracks. Here is a napkin with the menu and showing various motifs, including turkeys, ukuleles, palm trees, a surfer, and a hula girl. At the end of the meal were desserts, including pumpkin pie and coconut layer cake. This is a close-up of the napkin with the date November 20th. That was less than 3 weeks before the attacks. Now, after the December 7th, 1941 attacks, the number of photos my father took diminished. Here he is in the field in July 1942. And there he is with fellow soldiers at Kolikoli Pass in the mountains. Even during the war, the troops managed to keep some of their usual recreational activities. Here, in April 1943, my father is lifting 205 pounds. Go, Dad. This is one of several medals my father received and his dog tag ID. Whoop. This is my father's Army jacket. And so, as I said, he was discharged in 1945 at the end of World War II, and he returned home to the Bronx where he lived his life out. Thanks very much.
Muriel, thank you so much, and this is the reason we are honoring. Thank you for all of those photos and putting the real images behind our words. Clark Simmons, a longtime Brooklyn resident, served on the USS Utah at Pearl Harbor when it was hit by Japanese torpedoes and it sank, costing the lives of 58 of its crew. Clark was wounded as he rushed to shore after the ship was abandoned, and in his own words, quote, "I think my worst moment was when I woke up in the hospital and I listened to the radio and they were saying what had really happened here. That was my first realization as to what the impact that day had really meant. I knew that I had been hurt, but I didn't realize what had happened to the rest of the fleet and the rest of the people. I didn't realize the ship was completely lost," end quote. Clark recovered and served in the Navy through the end of the year. He was a Purple Heart recipient. Claudette Simmons, Clark's daughter, is here to speak in honor of her father. Please welcome Claudette.
I want to say good morning to Pearl Harbor survivors, family, and friends. I would like to thank Susan and Molly for having my brother, William Simmons, here along with me on this day.
And thank you, Merle. That was a very good. I'm glad to see the picture of your family, and it was very good.
Okay. I'm going to keep this very short. Clark was a very proud and devoted man, which helped him and his family. My dad attended many events here at Pearl Harbor and at his chapter in Las Vegas and also in Hawaii, where we both attended a lot of, we had good times there. I'm not reading from this because it'll make me confused. My dad never spoke too much about the war and what had happened, but I tell him my dad was a silent man. If you asked him, he would tell you drips and drabs of what was going on, but never completed saying what happened at Pearl Harbor. When my dad and I went to Hawaii, he showed me his ship. We sat on the bank and we looked at the USS Utah capsize. He showed me the porthole where he had came out and swam to shore. That was one of the few touching moments that I had with him before he passed. I just want to say thank you to everybody for having me and my brother William here, and I'm pretty sure he has something to say. Thank you.
Like my sister, I'm going to make it short and brief. Some of the things I talked with my father when he got home and before he passed away, that he enjoyed the Navy. He enjoyed the opportunity the Navy gave him. And he mentioned that it helped him during his life to conquer a lot of things in history and his family. Briefly, as he started off in the Navy, he made good friends. Even outside the Navy, he stayed in touch with the Pearl Harbor survivors. He stayed in touch with a lot of his friends. Along with that, I saw him as a young man growing up, the things he accomplished. As everyone knows, it was hard for an Afro-American sailor, but he accomplished, and the friends he made, and the groups that he made along the way. Not only between the retired from the post office, he also, again, was with the Department of District Attorney's Office in New York. And he definitely was a family man. Every year we would come to the Intrepid because he made a commitment. As an American, he made a commitment as a Navy man to honor the service that it gave, that he's trying to give back to them, and I believe he did. So again, I want to thank everyone coming out. I want to thank everyone for being here. The servicemen, I honor you. Those who came before me. I am a veteran of the war also, but I salute the Navy, Army, Air Force, the Marines, all the reserves that came here before me, who showed be a great American and stand up with this country. You showed us a lot, and again, I salute you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you both so very much for honoring your dad and for honoring all of our veterans. We're so grateful to have you on this day, and while it's so critical to commemorate on this day, we honor and we're grateful for your collective service every day. And so I do at this time want to ask Bruce Mosler, General Hershkowitz, Muriel, Claudette, and their families, along with the Gallela, Ward, and Medore families, to join us to lay the ceremonial wreath honoring those who lost their lives during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Thank you again so much for joining us today. God bless you. God bless Intrepid. God bless America.